Last week, the New York Times ran an article about how the U.S. military is aggressively pushing to reduce their reliance on fossil fuels and start to use more renewable sources of energy, especially for military operations in the field. I love this story for so many reasons. First of all, here in the U.S., we have a forward-looking, progressive faction of politicians, mostly Democrats, who have long been advocating to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels. Fossil fuels have many terrible consequences. First of all, they're very dirty. They cause a lot of pollution to air, soil, and groundwater. The reliance on fossil fuels distorts our foreign policy by making the U.S. have to befriend some regimes around the world that don't really line up with what the U.S. represents. In fact, it's the fossil fuel economy that creates these nasty regimes in the first place. Our reliance on fossil fuel and oil from abroad causes us to use our military all the time in Iraq and Kuwait and in places where we probably otherwise would have no business, and a lot of Americans are getting killed, and it's very expensive. Of course, there's a bunch of people in the U.S. who view use of the military as a good thing, so they don't see that as a negative. And finally, of course, the reliance on fossil fuel contributes to CO2 to the atmosphere, climate change, and global warming. For all these reasons, it would be great to get rid of our reliance on fossil fuel, or reduce it to the extent that it's realistic. But the backward-looking, regressive, mostly caveman Republican ideology in the country is that a program to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels is a socialist government takeover of the economy. Now, these same backward-looking Republicans love and worship everything that the military does. So it's great irony that now their beloved, honorable U.S. military is pushing to reduce the reliance on fossil fuels, because these fossil fuels reliance on oil is just getting too expensive in far-flung conflicts around the world. There's one anecdote about how maybe the fuel itself costs $1 a gallon in some places, but to transport it to the forward lines where it's needed costs $400 for that same gallon. So the military commanders, and these are generals, these aren't just weenie liberals who owe a civilian oversight of the armed force. These are actually generals who are pushing for a reduced reliance on fossil fuels. So other than just pointing out the irony, there's a lesson in here for liberals, progressives, Democrats who are advocating for renewal of our energy economy away from fossil fuels. Cast this issue as a national security issue, because it is. And you know who agrees with that? The U.S. military. So to wrap this up, I don't have a book to give away today, but today in the mail we did receive 3 copies of this comic book called The Adventures of Unemployed Man. So I'll show it to you here. And I don't know what it is. I haven't cracked into it, but we don't need 3 copies here at the Young Turks. So if you want a copy, email your name and mailing address to the email address that I'll put up here, david@theyoungturks.com, and I'll pick one at random and send, or maybe 2, because we don't need all 3. Finally, if you're interested in this issue of fossil fuels and climate change, I strongly recommend that you get, I believe, this week's copy of The New Yorker. There is a great article on the details and difficulties of producing climate change legislation. And it's a very interesting article that'll really make you think about how the whole process works. And thanks for watching. Check me out next time. Bye-bye.